What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Hunter podcast. This episode, I'm going to kind of do a mid-season recap. I haven't done one of these in a second, and I've had a pretty wild season so far. I think I've been on five hunts so far, or 4 hunts. Yeah, 4 hunts, and it's been pretty crazy. I spent a ton of days in the field. I think I've probably only been home in the last 2 months. I've probably been home a total of like 7 days or something. So it's been pretty wild. Um, I want to go through that, and then you guys can also see I have this brand new Peaks Solitude 4-person TB. Not brand new to the industry, brand new to me. I just got this, and I have the stove going right now. The reason that I have this out and I have the stove rolling with some wood in there, I got a fire going, is this is a brand new setup, so a brand new stove. And when you get a brand new titanium stove with these titanium pipes that kind of roll up, you really want to burn them in before you go out on a trip. The reason is when you roll that pipe up, when you do it at home, it's really easy. You can get like a PVC pipe or something long and straight, and you can roll it in a perfect roll. But when you do it in the mountains, and you've never rolled a pipe before, they don't have that roll memory after you burn it and get it really hot. So it's hard to get it in the mountains without having it crinkle here and there and having some rough spots. So when you roll it really good with no crinkles at home and you burn it, it gets really hot and it retains that memory of the roll. And so it's a really good idea to do that before you go on a hunt. That way, once you get on a hunt, it's kind of all ready to go. It's ready to be set up, and it's just a lot easier to get a nice tight good roll without it without having crinkles in the pipe. So that's what I'm doing with this tent right now, and you don't have to have the tent set up to do that, but I wanted to set the tent up just to like try it out. I have used a Solitude tent before for a couple nights on spring bear hunting trips. It was my buddy Riley's tent, and he let us use it for a couple nights because he went out on his own and he didn't need the full tent. And it's pretty cool. It's about 3 pounds for the tent and about 3 pounds for the stove. So together it's about 6.5 pounds. But if you split that between two guys on a late season hunt, it's awesome. And then if you're on an early season hunt and you don't want to bring the stove and you just want the tent, you can split that, and it's like 2.5, or it's like 1.5 pounds per guy, something like that, for the tent, which is super light for a tent and for two guys, right? And it's a pretty spacious, good tent. It's a 4-person tent. You could fit 4 people in there. You could easily do like 3 without the stove, but once you put the stove in, it's really like a 2-person tent with the stove. But I love it. It's pretty sweet. I'm excited to use it on some of my own hunts this fall, and we're kind of getting into that late season side of hunting, mid to late season side of the fall. So I wanted a good tent with a stove and something that's gonna hold up once we get into these later season hunts. So that's gonna be fun. That's coming on my next hunt starting next week. But I've had a pretty crazy fall, like I said, and I want to kind of go through it. So I started out this season with 3 deer tags, an elk tag, and that's it. So I have 4 tags total. My wife, she got an elk tag, that's over the counter elk tag, just like me, and then she actually drew out on a moose tag this year, which is crazy. It's like a 5% odd draw. 8 people got the tag in the unit, and it's one of the best units in the state for moose. It's right up there in the top like 2 or 3 units, and it was crazy. Just last year, she was like, "Hey, I want to hunt a moose someday." I was like, "Hey, well, let's start putting you in," and we put her in. And sure enough, the first year, she drew on a 5% odd moose tag, and I'm over here putting in for these tags that aren't even that have like 10% odds, 20%, and I can't draw anything. So it's pretty crazy, but super excited for that. We just finished that hunt. If you look on Instagram, you can see a picture of that bull, and I did film that whole thing, and I'll get into that in a second. But my first hunt of the year was mid-August, mule deer, and I scouted a bunch. We've done this hunt before, me and Jamin Davis, and last year we hunted a really nice buck with a cheater off of the side of him. Long story short, I ended up finding that buck again in a similar area, and I decided I wanted to try and count this buck really good. And Jamin was on board with it. So Jamin also had a deer tag this year, which he didn't last year. So we both had deer tags going into this hunt. Jamin had to think about 7 or 8 days to hunt. We got up opening day. Um, I'm gonna save most of the story for the film, and I actually when me and Jamin were there, we recorded a podcast right after. So that's 2 episodes ago. You can check that out and get the whole story. But we had some few chances at that really big buck, and then Jamin had to leave. So Jamin left, and a couple days later, I had a few days to go back up and fill my tag. And I had 3 full days, and every day there was a pretty solid chance of rain. But it was just kind of the time I had, and I knew that if I wanted to fill this tag and kill a buck, I needed to just go hunt during the rainy days. Um, so day one, got up at glass the morning, found a few bucks. I didn't find the big buck I was after, and I watched them do their thing that morning. They fed out from the basin and then out along kind of a cliff band pine tree face, and they bedded in there. Um, and I've seen deer do the same thing in the exact same spot, so it wasn't anything new to me. I knew that deer use that basin and that hillside just like they did that morning. And there was a decent buck with them, like a nice 4 point buck, a buck that I would shoot. And so I decided, I'm like, all right, if those deer are down there again in the morning, I'm gonna make a play on them. That night, it rained all afternoon, all night. I got up the next morning. It was raining that morning, so I didn't get to hunt a ton that morning. But the second afternoon, I was up across from the face those bucks had moved to, and I hadn't seen them yet that day. But then slowly they kind of all started feeding out, and I found there was probably 10, like 2 points and 3 points, and then there was that decent 4 point. So the next morning, I was like, hey, this is my last morning. I'm gonna go get above these where these deer are, and I'm gonna try and put a kind of ambush them as they feed from the meadows they're in that basin to the pine tree hillside. I'm gonna ambush them on that spot, and I got above them. I found them about an hour after light, and they were straight below me. My wind, it was going up the canyon because there's kind of like stormy clouds rolling in every once in a while, and that I had a really good crosswind. So I got down above them, but the closest I could get was about 90 yards. And because I was in the last patch of timber before a huge open field to where these bucks were, and they were like right in the middle of the field, so I couldn't get close to them any direction anyways. So I just sat and watched them, and they didn't go far. They kind of fed back and forth, zigzagged. They kind of moved away from me. They actually got to about probably 110, 120 yards away from me down the hill, but they bedded in this kind of gully, and I could tell that where they were bedded, I could probably sneak out of the spot I was in and loop one canyon over, drop down that canyon, and pop up on a ridge, and I could probably get within like 50, 60 yards, I thought. So I decided to do it. They looked like they were bedded there for a while. It was cloudy, the sun wasn't out, and they were bedded out in the wide open, but so it was kind of their first bed of the day, and I knew that. But I knew it wasn't going to take me very long to get down to this ridge, so I just decided to bomb down there. And it didn't take me long, but I was trying to be quiet because I'm walking through this open field of like dead leaves and sagebrush, and so it's pretty loud. But luckily it had rained, so a lot of it was wet, so it was a lot quieter than it would have been had I been doing this when it was dry. So I got up on the knob that I thought I could get this shot on these bucks bedded, and turns out they were already up and feeding, and they were coming towards me. So they were about 40 yards away, and none of them saw me. But I ranged the big buck. I could see him at right by himself. I could see him, ranged him 40 yards on the dot, and his had his head down feeding. So I popped up, drew back, and it's one of those things where I like just kicking myself. I kind of tunnel visioned a little bit, and I didn't really hold super steady, and I kind of punched the trigger, and it just like everything that I shouldn't do on a shot I did, and I shot and I hit him, but I hit him probably 5 inches forward, so like in front of the shoulder blade, and so it didn't really hit a ton of vital. I don't know if it hit very much at all, and I was shooting the SEVR hybrids, and my arrow stuck halfway in him, and then broke off, and he ran down the hill and he was bleeding a lot, and I could tell that he was really hurt. There was no exit wound, there was just the entrance wound, and he was bleeding out of it pretty dang good. And it was slowing him down a lot. He would take some steps and bed down. I could tell that he was really hurting, and he had a little buck with him that followed him. All the other bucks ran off the opposite direction, and I ended up watching him over the course of, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, work his way up and over the next over the next ridge, which was probably 400 yards away from me. And I mean, I knew exactly where he went over. I was like, okay, that's where he went over. I gotta go grab my stuff and try and get over on this buck, try and find him again. That's kind of the only chance I have. I grabbed my stuff. I got up on the ridge about 200 yards above where he went over, and there was a few pine tree patches on that next hillside. So I thought I'm just gonna super slowly sneak down and glass down this ridge. And maybe he made his way. Maybe he just popped over that ridge that I saw him go over, and he went and bedded down. I crept down that ridge. I didn't see anything, and I made it to his trail, and it was pretty open past his trail. And I started finding some blood. So I started following it, and he went down the next canyon and up the next ridge and over that. And as soon as I was cresting that next ridge, I saw some deer about 200 yards away from me out in this field. So I pulled my binos up, and it was him, and it was 4 other two-point bucks. So he joined this other group of bucks, and he was with that same 2-point that was with him the whole time. And he had bedded down. They were all bedded, and none of them saw me. I was still a lot far enough away. My wind was pretty good. So I just went up and I just sat and I just waited. I'm like, I can't. There's no way to get closer on this buck. He's in the wide open. I can't get any closer. And he was hurting. He would put his head down, and then he'd lift it up kind of, and he'd put his head down, and you could tell like he was not in good shape. I was just kind of expecting him to just die right there, but he didn't. I waited a couple more hours, and the three of the 2-points got up and worked over the next ridge, just feeding, and then he tried to get up, and he would take a few steps and he would just collapse, like just couldn't do it. He just lost so much blood that he was just having a hard time. And he did that a couple times, and he decided he just wasn't going to make it. So he got up, he turned, and he went up and bedded underneath the pine tree on the edge of this pine tree is under some cliffs. And then this other little 2-point that was with him came and bedded right there with him. The little 2-point was bedded watching their back trail. So I knew I couldn't stalk him from where I wanted to. I had to actually loop all the way around and get up above him. And it took me a while, but I did it. I got up above him. I snuck down through these cliffs and these rocks. It was a little sketchy. It wasn't sketchy. It was just that I didn't want to make any noise, so I had to go really slow. It seriously took me about 2 hours to cover the last 150 yards. Like, I was going so slow. And I had to like kind of try and find him because it was a little bit tough country to like relocate him, but I found him under the pine tree. The first spot I was about 45 yards, but it was super steep downhill. It was probably a 45-degree angle. So if you know what that is, that's a really steep shot. So a 45-yard shot at 45-degree angle, it's really probably more like 50, 60 yards with the distance. And I was like, I just don't feel comfortable with that. Like, I could see him with my naked eye, but I could barely, like, I didn't think that I could really shoot that. So I decided to try and move closer. I got closer. I got about 10 yards closer, so I was about 35 yards. And I was feeling a little better, and he was bedded down there, and I could see his horns and his part of his body. And it's like, yeah, I mean, this is the best I got. So drew back, crept out. He was looking straight at me. He saw me move out, but I shot, and my arrow went like literally right underneath him, like probably like caught some hair stuck in the ground underneath him. He jumped up and he ran out about 10 more yards, and he was standing there staring at me. And if this buck hadn't been hit and he wasn't feeling rough, I guarantee you that he would have kept going. But he gave me enough time. I put another arrow in, and I drew back, and I aimed dead on at 40, put my 40-yard pin on him, shot, and I just like smoked him, like best shot you could make on a deer. and he ran out, and he probably went 60 yards, and he bedded down right in the middle of this field and died right there. And it was perfect. So I was really a lot of like good lessons learned, and it was a fun hunt, but it was also a little nerve-wracking and took forever because I shot him in the morning. I didn't kill him till like right before sunset, and hunted him all day, and it was really slow and patient and methodical about it. And I'm glad that I made the decisions I did, and I'm glad I got that experience. But I mean, at the end of the day, I wish I could have killed him on my first shot, but that's just kind of how it goes. So that was fun. I got that buck, and my wife and sister came and helped and packed him out the next morning, and we got him out of there. And I was just at the taxidermy shop right now, yesterday, and he was getting my buck all cleaned up, getting the skull done. So that was pretty cool. The next hunt I had was with me and Kobe Owens, and we both had elk tags and deer tags for similar areas right next to each other. So we found some good bucks, but they just were not giving us any chances. And then as soon as our elk tags opened, we shifted basically to elk because these bucks were just kind of putting the slip on us too hard every day, and we weren't getting any good opportunities to bow hunt them. And we were seeing elk everywhere, and they were bugling and going crazy. So we're like, we better go hunt some elk. So we went and hunted elk for the rest of that hunt for the next week, and found some good bulls. We got in elk. We were seeing elk a lot, but we just never were able to get an opportunity at one. So me and Kobe, we had a good hunt. We're gonna make a little film out of it. We might both even have some time to get back after some of those tags later this year, but not super likely with both of our schedules, filming stuff and everything. My next hunt, I was filming a Wyoming elk hunt, archery elk hunt with Mountain to Coast Outdoors. So Steve and his brother, Jake. Super fun hunt. We actually had a good time. We were in elk every single day. We were working really hard. Like these guys get after it, like seriously. And we found a lot of elk. We had a lot of chances, but just wasn't working out until about the day before the last day when I had to leave. The day before I had to leave, we got on a bull and we called him in and got a good shot on him. Steve shot him, and we lost him that night. We decided to come back in the morning and get on him, and we found him the next morning dead. So that was a fun hunt. I'll leave all that story for Steve to tell on his film and on his podcast and whatnot. But super fun. I did find a really nice buck over there, like a 175 buck with a cheater, but I don't have a tag over there this year, which is too bad. But maybe next year I have enough points. So that was fun. We had a lot of fun on that hunt. Did a lot of good content, and that was my first time hanging out with those guys. And they do a good job, and they hunt hard. The next hunt that I had was just this last week actually, when this episode comes out, it would have been a week ago. It was my wife's moose hunt. We had some time carved out for the first basically 6 days of October to go hunt these moose, and everyone told me with moose, you can hunt them early and you can scout them, and if you have time, it can work good, and you can find some good bulls. But kind of that first week of October, they're rutting and they're going to be moving a fair amount, and you're going to see bulls you've never seen before. And then everyone said once like that mid-October cold front comes in, you're going to see way more moose out and moving around and stuff. So we kind of decided to wait till October to start hunting, and we had a few weeks carved out if we needed to go down there and hunt moose. And Ellie's dad flew in to hunt with us this first week of October. We got out the first night. I'm probably gonna have Ellie on here and we'll tell the story again, but got out the first night, didn't see much. We set up our camp, got out the first morning, found a good bull. It was a bull that everyone was like, yeah, that's a pretty good bull. Like, you might want to think about shooting that bull, even though it was the first day. But we decided to go after it. We went and we ended up killing it, and Ellie got a good bull. You can see some of the pictures on Instagram, but I filmed the whole thing. I'm going to tell the story in the film, and I'll probably have Ellie on the podcast here in the next few weeks, and we'll tell the story on there as well, and we'll kind of go more in depth about how that was, because that was really fun. And that was once in a lifetime. So she drew the tag and she shot her bull, and we're dropped off at the taxidermist. at Daniel Beanfield's place, Royal Game Taxidermy, and he's going to do the mount for us. And then we got all the meat taken care of. It's a lot of meat. We're going to have to buy a new freezer because we don't have a ton of room in our freezer for any more meat this year. So that's awesome. That was an awesome hunt. Coming up here, we got off that moose hunt early, so I have a few days this week to catch up on stuff and record a podcast and everything. And my next hunt's gonna start next week. So actually, when this podcast comes out, it's gonna be the week this podcast comes out. It's just Idaho General Season Mule Deer. It's the general hunt, October 10th through 24th, and it's in a unit that I know well. I've hunted growing up a little bit, and haven't really found a ton of good bucks in there the last couple of years hunting it, and so I haven't spent a ton of time there. But this year I decided to put some cameras out and kind of scout it during the summer, and I found some decent bucks. I really did. And I was surprised at kind of some of the bucks I was finding. So I know there's really good deer in there. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a grind to try and hunt these deer because it's a lot of thick country where not a lot of people are willing to hunt it the way that I'm gonna hunt it. It's gonna be like lots of glassing and still hunting during the midday through timber, and just kind of hoping I get lucky. One of the things that kind of sucks is that I haven't scouted it enough recently to know where my target buck is living. But I know he's gonna be in the area, and it's an area where mature bucks. We've seen a lot of mature bucks in this area in the past, and so I know that eventually there's gonna be another mature buck that shows up, and so it's just gonna be tough in trying to find him. And I hope I can, and we'll see. So that's next. I'm gonna hunt that entire hunt, 14 days of it. Well, 12 days of it. I'm gonna come home on Sundays, spend some time with my wife, and go to church. And then the next hunt after that is early November. It's another Idaho mule deer hunt. It's gonna be about 10 days or so in the backcountry with my buddy Cameron Hindmarsh. I am kind of trying to line up a camera guy for that. So if anyone listening wants to come do a crazy hunt and get some experience behind the camera, I have a little bit of budget to throw in if someone wants to do that. Um, it's like we're gonna be packing in like 8 to 10 miles and then living back there out of this tent right here, and just hunt deer. We both have deer tags, and it should be pretty good. I've hunted it a little bit in the past as well. It's a rut, like kind of a rut late season migration route hunt. So there's good deer. There's kind of new deer coming every day, especially if there's good snowstorms and stuff. So it's an exciting hunt for sure. And then after that, I think I have well, okay, so I have a hunt I'm filming in December, the first week in December. It's a fun hunt. I won't say much about that one until maybe it happens. But that's in Utah, and then I'm filming, and then I have a January Coos deer hunt in Mexico. That's gonna be really fun. With a good group of guys. I'll definitely share more about that because we're doing a bunch of content on that hunt, and there's a few other guys that I haven't hunted with yet, that I'm gonna be hunting with down there. I think we're all hunting with our bows because we're gonna be sitting water holes for coos deer, and it's gonna be a good time. I'm excited. That'll be in Mexico. Like I said, we're doing a bunch of content on that, and I'll be definitely sharing some stuff from that trip. I might get a Arizona archery deer tag and hunt it in January, but I'm not totally sure. That one's a little up in the air, so we'll see. And then after that, it's gonna be Hunt Expo pretty much, and I'll spend a bunch of time at the Hunt Expo. I might go to a couple other shows, maybe. I haven't decided yet. And then I will just be working on films and content for kind of the in-betweens of all those trips, and getting content out for podcasts, getting some of those films edited, and working on content for other people. So it's a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot going on, but really excited about how it's going. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover on this little episode here. What are we? About 20 minutes in. So yeah, there's not a ton else going on. My wife, we both had our elk tags, but I think they both ended. They might turn into like muzzleloader cow tags or something, but I don't think we're gonna do it. Like I said, our freezers are chocked full of meat right now, so we don't really need more meat. And we got a whole moose coming after the butcher gets done with it. Um, we, my wife, has talked about getting a deer tag, but she's pretty busy with school and stuff, so I don't know if she's gonna have time to come out with me a ton. But I've told her she should. Hopefully we can find a buck for her to kill. She's never killed a mule deer. She's only killed an elk and a moose, which is kind of funny. But we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping to find a good buck this year. I'll keep you guys updated. I'm gonna keep posting stuff on Instagram, and keep some of that stuff going. I know I haven't been super consistent this fall with podcasts, but when I'm home, I try and record one just to get one out. But we'll get pretty consistent again with them once the season's over and I have more time to actually record some episodes. So thanks you guys so much for listening and supporting and hopping on here. If you, like always, use the code podcast15 at checkout on the website, and you'll get 15% off anything. We got hats on there. We got some hoodies and the Bino visors. Maybe I might be working on some clothing, but I want to do some cool designs. I don't just want to do like regular logo clothing. So we'll see. If you're interested in something like that, let me know. Just quick so I kind of know what the demand would be on that. So thanks you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys in the next episode.